Hello there, John Siddique here, and I've just come back from Bradford where I've been running a reading group for the Royal Literary Fund. This reading group is called Reading Rounds. There are 25 of them going on around the country at the moment, and it's really quite different from your usual reading group in that there's no homework at all. What we do is we kind of come together, and I bring a short story and a poem or two, and I just read to you. I just read to the group, and they can follow along if they want to, or some just close their eyes and listen, and then we kind of have a discussion. And I'm so blessed with this group because I've got the support of Bradford Literature Festival, who are really helping me out with it, and the beautiful Waterstones in Bradford, which is one of the most beautiful bookshops in the world. It's just all wrought iron and a high ceiling with beautiful windows, and they're our hosts. So between the Royal Literary Fund, Bradford Lit Fest and Waterstones, and then there's little me kind of running the group, I feel a very blessed human being indeed. Anyway, I just wanted to share with you a little bit about today, because I said I'd share on social media what we were reading, and I'll try and do one of these little blogs each week so that you can join in too if you want. I'm not going to read the whole thing out because there's copyright issues and all that sort of thing, and I want to turn you towards the text, you know. That's the point sometimes of kind of doing something aloud, that it kind of refers you back to the text. So the short story we read is by Michel Faber. Michel is a male writer, and he lives in Scotland, I believe, and the short story was called The Eyes of the Soul, from his book The Fahrenheit Twins. And it's slightly sort of possible sci-fi, but it's very, very grounded in this reality. Well, here's a little excerpt from it so that you can have a little listen. It's particularly lovely at night, added the saleswoman, in a soft, beguiling tone. Owls come out. They catch mice in the garden. Owls, echoed Jeanette. She'd never seen an owl. She'd seen a lot of things. She'd seen kids sniffing glue. She'd once stumbled onto an attempted rape. She'd had to pick bits of hypodermic syringe out of the rubber soles of her son's trainers. About a fortnight ago, sitting at this same windowsill late at night, she'd watched a drunken, bloodied boy larking about on the roof of the shop, pissing over the edge, while his mates whooped and ran around below, dodging the stream. Now I've seen everything, she'd murmured. But she'd never seen an owl. How much does this cost, she breathed. There was a pause, while the wind blew a few leaves trembling against the window. You can buy, said the saleswoman, or you can rent. Her eyes twinkled kindly, offering her customer the choice that was no choice at all. And then, for the poet, I wanted to find something that was very, very different from The Eyes of the Soul. So I chose Summer Solstice, New York City by Sharon, and this is from her book The Gold Cell. Sharon Olds, probably one of the kind of best known poets in the world at this time, and I think The Gold Cell is her second book. Satan Says was the first book, and I think The Gold Cell was the second book, and this is before she settles into that pattern of relationships and parents and the kind of the usual things that she writes about, but it's all kind of there as well. But there's a real freshness and a kind of a really open quality to this poem. So let me read you a little tiny bit of that. The tallest cop approached him directly, softly, slowly, talking to him, talking, while a man's leg hung over the lip of the next world, and the crowd gathered in the street, silent. And the hairy net, with its implacable grid, was unfolded near the curb and spread out and stretched as the sheet is prepared to receive a birth. So there you go. And so that's The Eyes of the Soul by Michel Faber, and Summer Solstice New York City by Sharon. And it'd be really cool if you went and found those texts, and then maybe had a read and have a think for yourself. And a reading group is not about saying what a piece of writing makes you feel, although that is part of it. That's usually our first response. But another thing that's really different about reading rounds is that it's, the person running it is a writer. And so we can kind of, without getting kind of academic about it, we can kind of bring a kind of slightly more literary touch or a more writerly approach to what's there. And so one way of thinking about the text that you're looking at is kind of let go of the do I like it, do I not like it. That is a consideration, but there's much more to a text. Now, if you don't like it, why don't you like it, rather than just that response. But then perhaps, what we're really doing is what you might call a kind of close reading of the text. So perhaps looking at the tone, the voice that the writer uses to tell the story. So you've got the writer's voice themselves, you've got the voice of the characters, there's kind of repetitions in language, there's the way that rhythm is used, and we're not trying to kind of figure out a puzzle. What we're really doing is seeing how the piece of writing communicates, how it tells its story to us, how is the writer speaking to us as a storyteller. And this is kind of how we worked within the group. And of course, groups have got many, many functions, but what was really interesting is kind of, people were saying, I've come here because I want to be surprised. I want to kind of be exposed to new things. I'm kind of stuck reading just this all the time. And I'd like to know what else is out there. And I've not chosen pieces based on my taste either, actually. I've chosen some stories that I don't like at all, because it's not about that. It's not about like and not like. It's about sort of meeting the text and kind of, really kind of having a look at it. And the responses were quite incredible, to the Michel Faber. Not one person disliked it, but more than that, it's so beautifully written. Like Hemingway talks about kind of wanting to be transparent so that you don't feel the writer there at all. You just feel like you've met the characters. Every one of us felt like we knew Jeanette. Every one of us, it's painted so well that you feel like you've spent time in her house and you just want to go around and have a cup of tea with her. That was our response to it. I'd love to hear what your responses are. So maybe, if you want to, leave some comments down below if you get to read this story and this poem. And with the Sharon Olds, what was interesting is that a lot of people really didn't take to it at all. But then we had a second reading and people kind of warmed to it much more. And this is often the case with poetry. Poetry kind of has this kind of reputation around it sometimes that we feel, oh, I don't know what poetry's about, and, I'm not clever enough and all that sort of thing. And really, like I said before, poems and stories are not mysteries to be unpacked. It's somebody talking to us. The best stories is somebody telling us a story. And if they do their job well, then it feels like we've really met something. We've really met the people. And so we kind of dug into the Sharon Olds poem a bit more. And there was a lot of debate about whether the guy jumped or didn't jump, actually, because it's not clear. So I'm going to leave you with that, and not tell you any more about these stories, because all I want to do is kind of offer them to you. And these are two brilliant, brilliant writers who, if you don't know them, are kind of worthy of your attention. And sadly, 3 people couldn't make it along today to the reading group. It's interesting, it kind of booked up very, very quickly, and then the typical sort of thing happens when something gets underway, family crises, and I'm stuck doing this, or I didn't realise something, or I don't know. Anyway, so we had 9 people turn up. We're aiming to kind of be around 12, so it's a nice, comfortable, sociable group where we can kind of be friendly and chat with each other. 12 just seems about the right number. So if you live in the area, you're somewhere nearby, and you can make it along from 10:30 to noon on a Thursday during term time, then come along, or let me know. Just post me a message down below, contact me through my email, or get in touch with Bradford Literature Festival. And we have 3 spaces at the moment, so I'd like to kind of invite you if you'd like to come along. So bless you. One more thing I wanted to tell you about. This was probably for me, the most glorious thing, and it kind of taps into my other work as a kind of a spiritual teacher, a meditation teacher. The group was beautiful, right? The group was really, really fantastic, and people were friendly with each other from the outset. There was not one person trying to kind of rule it with their knowledge or power, or I know more about literature than you, and all that sort of thing. That sometimes happens, but it wasn't like that at all. But what was really astonishing was the 3 people sitting outside of our group who kind of were in the kind of just kind of picking books off the shelves and looking at them, but listening in the whole time. And the 3 people who were there around the edge did not move for the whole hour and a half. And in fact, one woman afterwards came to me, and she had a Thich Nhat Hanh book in her hand, and I could tell, she says that she told me that she likes to sit near the spiritual books, and she's kind of reading them in the shop because she can't really afford them, and that she's kind of had a bit of a difficult time in her life, and she felt that the group was kind of giving out some kind of energy that made her feel safe and comfortable. So of course I invited her along, and I spoke to her a little about how the pain body operates, and how we can kind of start bringing awareness to that, so that we see it not as something that we have to fight anymore, but just to kind of start befriending anything in us that hurts and kind of bringing love there, but I'm not going to get into that because that's not what this video is. It's not one of my usual kind of spiritual talks and all that sort of thing. So I'll love you and leave you. I have a cup of tea. I've not had any lunch yet, but I just wanted to share. Hopefully I can do one of these each week. It just depends on time. But yeah, grab those books, have a read, leave me a comment down below, and I'll let you know next week what the next story and poem is. Bless you. Take care. Bye-bye.